When Vanessa Holbrook pressed the call button at the iron gates of the Webb estate, her finger was trembling. The sweeping driveway, the fleet of black vehicles catching the October sun, the Victorian main house sitting back on 400 feet of manicured lawn, all of it belonged to Marcus Webb. The same Marcus Webb she had handed a ring back to 27 months ago and told he wasn't enough. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the night she made the worst decision of her life. Marcus Webb was 34 years old when he met Vanessa Crane. He was a senior software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in Columbus, Ohio, earning $95,000 a year, driving a 6-year-old Civic, and living in a 2-bedroom apartment he kept clean but didn't bother to decorate. He was not flashy. He didn't talk about money. He believed that love was built on steadiness, honesty, and showing up, not on the watch you wore or the restaurant you could afford. Vanessa had a different set of beliefs. They met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner and dated for 2 years. Marcus proposed at a rooftop restaurant downtown with a princess-cut diamond, modest by some standards, the best he could offer at the time. Vanessa said yes. She posted the photos. She called her mother. She started following wedding photographers on social media. But even then, if you looked carefully, there were signs that the yes had been conditional. The engagement party was held on a Friday in March. 60 people, a rented event hall in the short north, catered food, fairy lights strung across the ceiling, a playlist Marcus had spent 2 weekends building. It was, by every reasonable measure, a beautiful evening. And then Derek Holbrook walked in. Derek was 41, broad-shouldered, wearing a Patek Philippe on his wrist and a blazer that probably cost $3,000. He was a commercial real estate developer from Washington, D.C., in Columbus for a business deal, and he had arrived as the plus one of a woman named Claudia, Vanessa's college friend. He entered the room like a man who had rehearsed it. Half the women turned their heads. Several of the men straightened up. Marcus watched Vanessa shake Derek's hand. He saw something flicker in her expression, something that did not belong at an engagement party. Her laugh became different. More performative. She kept touching her hair. 3 days later, she asked Marcus to sit down. She was calm. Eerily calm. She placed his ring on the kitchen counter between them like a document being submitted for review. She said, "I think we want different things." Marcus asked what things. "A real future," she said. "Security. The kind of life I actually want. Not just, comfortable." He looked at the ring. He looked at her. He didn't raise his voice. He told her he hoped she found what she was looking for. He packed what he needed and was out of the apartment by the end of the week. But what she didn't know, what nobody outside of Marcus's immediate family knew, was that his uncle Raymond was dying. Raymond Webb had spent 40 years quietly building one of the most significant privately held land portfolios in the Midwest. Agricultural land across Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. He had never married. He had no children. He had spent his last decade giving money to causes he believed in, and his last 2 years organizing what would remain. He had 2 brothers. Both of them he considered failures. He had one nephew, Marcus, who had spent every summer on the estate as a boy, who had listened when Raymond talked, who had asked the right questions, who had cared about something beyond himself. When Raymond passed away that February, his will named Marcus as the sole beneficiary of the Webb estate. Total appraised value, $12.3 million. That included 4,800 acres of farmland with active lease agreements, the Victorian main house on a family property, 2 income-producing investment properties in Nashville, and a brokerage account worth $2.1 million. Marcus sat in the estate attorney's office on a gray Wednesday morning and listened to every word without moving. When the attorney finished, Marcus asked a single question. "What do I need to do to honor what he built?" The months that followed were not dramatic from the outside. Marcus took a leave of absence from his job. He hired an estate management team, an agricultural attorney, and a CPA who specialized in land trust structures. He renegotiated the farmland leases and increased annual income from the properties by 22% in the first year alone. He moved into the main house. He renovated the east wing. He sold one of the Nashville properties for a net profit of $380,000 and reinvested it into infrastructure improvements across the estate. He grew a beard. He bought 2 suits, not to signal anything, but because he was attending county board meetings and bank reviews now. He started running at dawn on the gravel roads that cut between the fields. He lost weight. He slept better than he had in years. He did not announce any of this on social media. He simply lived it. But on the other side of the state, things were moving in a very different direction. Vanessa Crane became Vanessa Holbrook 8 months after the engagement party. The wedding was held at a vineyard in the Shenandoah Valley, 200 guests, a 12-piece band, a florist flown in from New York. It was the kind of wedding designed to be witnessed and remembered. What wasn't visible in any of those photographs was the debt it was built on. Derek Holbrook's commercial real estate career was a masterpiece of perception management. He owned minority stakes in several properties. He owed money to more creditors than most people keep track of. He had financed his entire lifestyle, the downtown condo, the leased vehicles, the tailored suits, the vineyard wedding, through a combination of business loans, personal credit lines, and a second mortgage he had taken out and never mentioned. His actual net worth, according to the forensic accountant later brought in during legal proceedings, was approximately negative $340,000. Vanessa didn't find this out until 14 months into the marriage. The credit card statements stopped arriving by mail. Then the bank called about the condo mortgage. Then an envelope arrived that she opened by accident, a demand letter from a creditor in Delaware, addressed to Derek, threatening litigation. She found the rest in a shoebox in his home office. 3 demand letters. 2 bank notices. A lawsuit filed by a former business partner. Documents showing a second mortgage on a property she didn't know existed. She confronted him over dinner that night. Derek said it was a temporary liquidity situation. He said he had a deal closing in the spring that would reset everything. He had been saying that for 7 months. Vanessa went to bed without speaking. At midnight, she opened her laptop at the kitchen table and typed Marcus Webb's name into a search engine for the first time in almost 2 years. The third result was a feature from a regional business journal. Webb Estate expands land partnerships across 3 counties. There was a photograph. Marcus standing in front of the main house in a dark jacket, arms at his sides, looking directly into the camera. The caption read, "Marcus Webb, sole heir to the $12.3 million Webb Estate, has restructured land leasing agreements for long-term agricultural development." She stared at the screen for a long time. She closed the laptop. Then she opened it again. Then she picked up her phone. She reached him on a Thursday morning. He didn't recognize the number until she said her name. He paused. Then, quietly, "Vanessa. How are you?" Not a question. She told him she had been thinking about him. She said she had made mistakes, that she had been confused, that she had been chasing the wrong things and wanted him to know that. She asked if they could meet for coffee, just to talk. He was standing at the window in the main house, watching the morning fog lift off the east fields. He told her he was tied up for the next few weeks but that he wished her well. She pushed. She asked if he was seeing someone. He said that wasn't something he was going to get into. She said she just wanted to see him, to explain things properly, to apologize in person. Her voice was soft in a way he remembered. He let her finish. Then he said, "I hope things get clearer for you, Vanessa. Take care of yourself. He ended the call. She drove 3 hours anyway. She arrived on a Saturday afternoon in October. She buzzed the call box at the iron gates. Marcus answered through the intercom and told her he'd be right out. He met her at the gate rather than opening it. He was wearing work clothes. Jeans. A flannel shirt. Boots with actual mud on them. He looked unhurried. He looked like a man who had been interrupted from something he would return to shortly. Vanessa had dressed carefully. She had done her hair. She was composed and she knew how to use that. But standing there at those iron gates, looking at Marcus through the bars, she felt something shift in a way she hadn't expected. She told him she was sorry. She said she had confused status for substance. She said she had been foolish, that she could see that clearly now, and she needed him to know it. Her voice cracked at the end. It might have been genuine. Marcus watched her without expression. You left, he said, because you thought I wasn't enough. I understood that. I didn't agree with it, but I understood it. She nodded. And now you're here, he continued, because it turns out I have more than you realized. And what you chose turned out to have less than you were told. She started to say something. He held up one hand, gently, not unkindly. That's not a change of heart, Vanessa. That's arithmetic. She stood at those gates for 2 more minutes. She said his name twice. She cried. He told her to drive safe. He turned and walked back to the house. Derek Holbrook's financial situation collapsed entirely over the following 6 months. 3 creditors filed suit simultaneously. The downtown condo went into foreclosure. The leased vehicles were repossessed. The legal proceedings became part of the public record. Vanessa moved in with her sister in Cincinnati. Marcus continued running the estate. He expanded the land partnerships into a 4th county. He hired a young property manager from the agricultural college nearby and started hosting quarterly dinners for the farming families who had worked that land for generations. On Sunday mornings he drank his coffee on the back porch and watched the fields move with the wind. He was not bitter. He was not triumphant. He was simply, finally, exactly where he was supposed to be. Some people spend their whole lives chasing what they imagine wealth looks like. They're drawn to the watch, the suit, the borrowed confidence of a man who has learned to perform prosperity. They mistake the display for the thing itself. Marcus Webb never performed anything. He was steady and quiet and, for a time, completely overlooked. And the woman who placed his ring on a kitchen counter and told him he wasn't enough drove 3 hours to stand at his gate and discover, 2 years too late, that she had been wrong about everything. What would you have done if she showed up at your door? Drop your answer in the comments.